But after seeking God for the connection, I believe that He gave me that message. And I pray that you bear with me tonight because I feel like it's a pretty heavy message. It's one that He has placed on me, so I feel like I bear the burden. And I feel like I need to get up here and say it to you guys. So I pray that you bear with me as I try to speak the message tonight. But I want to start off by asking you a question. Is it possible to think that we know God and that we're on our way to heaven, but we really not be? Is it possible to think that we know God, that we're on our way to heaven, but we really not be on our way to heaven? If you die right now, do you know you would go to heaven? If so, why? And if not, why? It's the tough questions to answer. The reason why I ask is because I've really been thinking about the way that Satan tries to deceive God's people. And I think back to early days in my walk with the Lord, and I saw times where Satan would really beat me up and heap condemnation on me and say, like, you're no good. You know, who are you to call yourself a child of God? You know, you sin all the time. You mess up. You've missed the mark a long time ago. You know, and I really had no answer to that because, you know, the condemnation was coming and it was coming and coming. But, you know, I believe that Satan has changed the way he deals with God's church. I believe that he has come to us in a large part now, and what he's saying to the church now is, you know what, you're pretty okay. You know, you go to church, you know, your parents are saved, you know, you can answer a few questions about Jesus. So don't worry about it anymore. You can live the way you want to live. You can do everything you want to do. Don't even worry about necessarily going and talking to Jesus. He's too busy. You live your life and you go and work for him. You're supposed to be working for him anyways. You're really not supposed to go and spend time with the Lord. And I believe that he's using our culture today in his attack to deceive us. And I know what you're wondering, like, what in the world could Satan be using from our culture to try to trick us? Ironically, I think he's using our idea of the way we communicate with each other. And I got to thinking about this, and this is a pretty complicated system here, so bear with me. But when man first started, if you wanted to say something to someone, you would get up, you would walk over to that person, and you would say it to them. Face-to-face conversation. I know it's hard to believe, but that's how man first started off. Then came mail. Then we were able to sit down at a table and write a letter to someone, hand it to someone, and they would drive it, or I guess ride it, across the country or wherever they were going to the person, and they would be able to read it. So you were communicating with them, but it wasn't the face-to-face communication anymore, but it was still a written communication. But then came the invention of the telephone. And so now we don't have to get up and go to someone's house to talk to them. And we don't even have to write them a letter. All we have to do is pick up a phone, dial a few numbers, and talk to them on the other line. So, you know, we're talking to them, but we're not face-to-face. It's a little less intimate, you know. You could say whatever you want to. You could be dressed however you want to. Your hair all messed up, and you can talk to them on the phone. You know, we can do that now. But there was a time when, believe this or not, there was a time when you had to be at your house to make a phone call. Agents, you guys remember that? Before they had cell phones, you had to be at your house to call somebody. Now we have cell phones. How many people in here have a cell phone tonight? Basically everybody's got one, right? Now, not only do you have to be at your house, but you can talk to someone anytime you want to, wherever you are, at any time during the night, as long as your phone has a charge, which mine most of the time don't. Cell phones are a great way to communicate with people, but it's a lot less intimate than talking to them face-to-face. Then came email and the whole idea of the internet about the same time, and we're able to sit down at a computer and send somebody a message, and all we see is text on a screen. Then came text messaging. You know, we're able to just sit there and text, so instead of calling people, we just text them, leaving even a little less intimate. And then what I believe, I mean, there's nothing wrong with sites like MySpace or Facebook. I'm not preaching against any of this, but I just want you to stop and think for a minute. Most of these sites you go to, and you just upload information about yourself. Other people come by and read your information, look at your pictures, and see what you're up to, basically. And they believe that they know what's going on in your life based on what you've put up on your MySpace page. You see how communication has gone down a little bit? I mean, we can talk to anybody in the world at any given time in a second, but we've lost a lot of intimacy in communication. You know, I remember back when before we even had a telephone in our house, believe it or not. Having to walk over to my friend's house and talk to them. Now, I just send them a text message. It's a lot less intimate. I believe that Satan knows this. I also know, I think that Satan is using that against God's people. Because we have this mindset where we think we actually know a bunch of people because we go and we read about them on a certain page or whatever. And, you know, I have a Facebook account. I really don't MySpace much. I have a Facebook account, but I probably have 300-400 friends on Facebook. You know, I mean, I would probably be amazed to hear how many people you have as friends on or on MySpace or Facebook or whatever. Out of those 300 or 400, how many do I communicate with daily? Very, very, very few. A lot of them I've never met in my life. How many people sign on to your MySpace account and Joe Smith has wanted to add you as a friend and you're like, okay, cool, he looks pretty cool. Just add him as a friend. So then you have like 600-700 friends listed on your list. And out of that, you might know 50 of them. And out of that, you might hang out with 10 of them. You know, this idea of just this we're communicating with everybody. We know everything about everybody. But we've lost a lot of intimacy there. And I think that Satan's using that in our relationship with God. Could it be, listen to this, could it be that our South Georgia mentality of religion has blinded us and we think just because our parents are saved or because we go to church all the time or we know a lot of accurate facts about Jesus that we ourselves know him intimately? We know all the answers, but do we have an intimate relationship with him? So I ask the question again, do you know him? Is there a point in your life where you have saw yourself as a sinner before an all-sufficient Savior and you cried out for mercy? And he has came and he has rescued you. He wiped your tears out of your eyes and said, you are now my child, and you know him on that level. I ask you the question, do you know him? I want somebody to come up here, Brooke, please. And I've showed this illustration before, but I want to use it again because I believe God placed it on my heart. Brooke, I got this Snickers bar here for you. Okay? You didn't win, did you? Okay. Didn't want to give her another one. All right, this Snicker bar I want to give to you, okay? It's a free gift. Okay, it's yours. I'm telling you it's yours, but at what point does it become yours? Whenever I give it to you? There you go.
When God gives it to me.
No. Oh, okay, you can sit down. Do you get the point? I gave Brooke that candy bar, but it didn't become Brooke's until she reached out and took it for herself. You all saw that I gave the thing to Brooke, but did that matter anything? It didn't make a hill of beans as far as Brooke was concerned until she reached out and took it for herself. Then it became hers. At that point, it became hers. Salvation is a conscious act of will, not just a few accurate thoughts about Jesus. Or it's not something that we just stumble into. We come to church and we just become Christian. Or, you know, we read our Bible a time or two and we just become Christian. Or we hang out with the right people. Or we don't do this thing or whatever and we just become Christian. That's not the way it works. The question of salvation is, have you met Jesus Christ? Period. Have you met him? Not just a few accurate thoughts about Jesus, who Jesus is. And see, he knew this full well in Matthew 16 when he looked at his disciples and he said, who do others say that I am? I think, well, basically, okay, the disciples said, you know, some say John the Baptist, some say this, some say that. They knew the accurate thoughts of what other people said about Jesus. But did that matter any at all, what other people said about him? Jesus took it a step further and he looked at Peter and he said, well, who do you say that I am? That's a totally different question. And I believe that's the question that Jesus is asking everybody in this room tonight. Who do you say that I am? Not what does Heritage Church say about me. Not what does Jamie Phelps say about me. Not even what Eric Foster Whidden says about me. Who do you say that I am? In your heart, when you lay down tonight and Jesus comes to you, will you know him? Will he know you? He knows everyone. But do you have a personal relationship with him?